All right. So for anybody that's been, I don't know, laying under a rock in our industry, Tim, will you just give us a 90-second, who you are, what you've been up to for the last 20 years, please?
Well, it's been longer than that. So
Been longer than
Julie and I,
that.
yeah, I know. Julie and I have been married for 32 years this year, which is incredible. And so we bought our
What's
first
wrong with
house,
her?
right?
Is she
Bad
okay?
vision,
Yeah.
bad vision. So yeah, so we've been married for 32 years this year, and we bought our first house when we were 22 and 23. We were barely out of high school. And essentially right after that, we got into real estate, but we owned actually another business prior to getting into real estate. And yeah, our first year in business, our first full year selling real estate for other people, not just ourselves, we sold 103 homes. And that was a record then. And from what I understand, no one's broken that record since. I don't know if it's true or not. That's just what I was told. How would I know? But yeah, that was a big deal. And how did we do it? The fundamentals of how we did it are still how we teach agents to do it to this day. And where we wrote our book about Harris Rules. But yeah, so from there, we sold real estate for about 10 years, typically 100 to 200 homes per year. And we built a real estate team, kind of went through the trials and tribulations of that. We actually were doing proactive and passive lead generation, marketing, and also, self-generating leads. So had experience with that. And then we became Howard Brinton stars in 1998, I think. And Howard Brinton in the day was the biggest deal in real estate. So it was a huge honor. He had invited us to be his stars of the month. And the whole thing was this was actually barely like right when the internet was going mainstream with consumers. So, I mean, it's kind of funny to think about that, but it's true. So he used to actually have these interviews and he would mail them out in a tape or a CD. I remember when he went from tapes to CDs.
Wow.
Yeah, back in the 90s. Anyway, so we were his stars. And then from there, Remax started having us do a lot of speaking for them. We flew to different regions and all this stuff. And so all of a sudden, we didn't intend to become well-known in real estate. We just wanted to sell real estate. That's it. And then turns out we were pretty good at it. And turns out a lot of people wanted to hear us talk about how we did it. And then we tripped into coaching. So coaching really started happening in the very late 90s, like right around 2000. And I'll tell you this funny story. You'll appreciate it. I don't think I told you this before, Brandon. So Julie and I were at a Howard Brinton seminar, and we were Howard Brinton stars. And we were standing in the back of the room, and he had maybe 2,500 people in the room. And Howard, who passed away, but they just recently relaunched Star Power, which is great. Anyway, so he announced from stage, we're starting this coaching program. And he had no idea whether he was going to get one person or like two people or whatever interested. And we just talked a little bit about it. And he says, and it was right before a break. And he goes, so for those of you who are interested in being coached, come up and during the break and throw your business card on stage. And remember, Julie and I are in the back of this huge room. And I remember seeing like everyone in the room rush up and it looked like confetti. There are so many cards just hitting the deck, hitting the stage. And Julie and I looked at each other and go, what the hell just happened? We realized it was the birth of a really big idea. Now, coaching and training had been around obviously forever, and in business actually for a while too, but not in real estate. And so during that break, people started coming up to us and asked us, are you guys doing coaching and training? Are you doing coaching and training? So the first couple of times we said, no, we don't, I didn't know what it was, honestly. And then we started saying yes. And then one of the first people I said yes to is Michael and Robin Gordon, who we're still working with. And they're on the main line in Philadelphia, one of the, I think, top Wall Street Journal agents in the country. And yeah, so they were officially our first client. And isn't that incredible?
Wow. Crazy. Unbelievable story. And so, yeah, you guys have really seen it all. I mean, the different trends, different real estate markets, people come and go, and what I want to unpack today and really dive into, Tim, is, what I think, what makes a real estate agent successful, maybe some of the pitfalls you've seen over the years, and then we'll get into the industry. But, when you look at, the broad spectrum of real estate agents, and you've seen a lot, you've seen them all. You've seen them come, you've seen them go. What are some of the things that you find, maybe some characteristics that makes one successful? Let's start with that.
Well, it's follow one course until successful. Or you can say that a bunch of different ways, but follow one course until successful. And like a lot of agents So I'll reframe your question slightly because I think it'll be like help more
Yeah.
people. So why is it that with all of these lead generation ideas, team ideas, marketing, branding ideas, why is it with all these different ways to build your business in real estate, why is the failure rate in real estate increased and not decreased?
That's fair.
Why is the duration, why is the amount of time that a new licensee, stays active in real estate been on the decline, not increasing, despite the fact that there's all these new business building systems and gurus and all these other people out there? And so the answer is because people don't follow one course until successful. They never give themselves time to really get good at one thing. People overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can actually get done in 20. And it's not a new phenomenon. People think, well, it's social media, and it's, people are expecting little quick, social Instagram posts and all that. Nope. People have always had attention spans to gnats, same as a gnat. So if you want to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace, stay the course. But the trick is, and you know this, make sure you choose which path you're going to be on correctly. And don't just choose what's perceived to be the easiest path, because the easiest path is what everyone else is going to follow. And when everyone else follows it, it means that it's going to have the most competition, and it's going to have the least likelihood of you actually succeeding from following that path.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well said. And I think that you are 100% spot on, is that, the failure rate that is increasing, the phenomenon is very interesting. As more and more information gets released on how to win in real estate, how is it then, if information's the whole thing, right? Information's power, that whole thing. If that was true, why are people failing more now than before? And I think that you hit it spot on. And that is having all of these voices come at these new real estate agents, and it creates a world that elicits shiny object syndrome. And so navigating through all the different voices, it's hard for a new agent. Could you imagine, Tim, right now getting into the business and saying, oh my gosh, every time I turn my computer on, my phone on, I hear somebody saying something that contradicts the other person to do the exact opposite. And so who do I listen to? And I guess that's the next thing to unpack is, how does one navigate the noise in our industry with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, like to your point, calling themselves a coach or a guru, telling them to do this, to do that? How is one to navigate all of that?
So there's 4 phases. Let's just focus in on what you said. You said basically choosing a coach, or I don't like the word guru, frankly, but let's just use the word coach or trainer. So the first question, there's 4 questions. The first question you have to ask when choosing someone who you're going to follow, right? Or who you're going to listen to, who you're going to give your potentiality to, because that's really what you're doing when you decide to watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast, right? Number 1 is has that person, 4 questions, 4 filters. And these filters, Julie and I use for every aspect of, not just when we're hiring someone to be a trainer, but financial advisor, dentist, doctor, whatever, right? So number 1 is, have they actually done it? So in real estate, have they had a real estate license? And I would say just because everyone is following somebody, watching somebody on YouTube or whatever, you cannot assume that the crowd's done their homework sufficiently to protect you, frankly.
Yeah.
Again, go back to the previous point. Why are so many agents failing so much faster? It's because, frankly, they're following false prophets. And so number 1 question that Julie and I always lean into is, when you're choosing someone to listen to, especially when it has to do with your real estate success, has that person had a real estate license before? If the answer is no, then that person immediately should be disqualified. Period. Full stop. Why? Because you can do better. So the next question is if you find somebody who's had a real estate license before, the next question is have they sold 100 homes in 1 year? Right? So if they've had a license before, move on to question 2. Question 2 is, have they sold 100 homes in a year? Okay, that might be somebody worth listening to, frankly, because to sell 100 homes in a year, you have to have, it's not by accident. You have to have obviously had a lot of diligence, some work, some skills, some talent. You are probably somebody that I should be listening to. Question number 3. Okay, so now I'm moving on to filter number 3, as Julie and I call it. Filter 3, have you sold at least 100 homes per year for at least 5 years in a row.
Mm.
Interesting. Why that question? Because some people will, for example, list a building in Manhattan, or list, we just got back from ringing the bell on NASDAQ, and buildings everywhere. If you had listed that building and that building, you could have easily sold 100 units in a year. Okay. Well, does that qualify you to be a coach? I don't think so. Question 2, did you sell at least 100 homes per year for at least 5 years in a row? Because to have done that, you not only have to have essentially known what you were doing at some level, but also known how to run a business and scale up a practice where you have consistent lead flow, where you can handle customers at a high level, where you actually have mastered the art and science of being a successful real estate agent for a duration. And probably you've mastered selling real estate through different market cycles too. So that's a great coach. If you can find those 3 things, but now here's the 4th filter. And this 4th filter is going to knock just nearly about everybody out. You're thinking about hiring a real estate coach or professional. Has that real estate coach, trainer, whatever, performed 100,000 paid one-on-one coaching calls? Paid. Because here's how they'll obfuscate the answering of that question. They'll say, well, I have. I've spoken in front of so many agents. I've done so many agent trainings. I've had so many, people watch my YouTube videos. Nope. Have you been on the phone or a video with, essentially enough times with enough agents where they're paying you to perform a coaching call, help them in their business at least 100,000 times? Now, why is that important? Because at that point, you've been market tested. At that point, you've proven your ability to not just be successful selling real estate, not just successful at selling real estate, for 5 years at a high level consistently, but now you've proven your ability to help others do the same. And if you can't find, and there's a handful of people out there that qualify for that. And in my opinion, one of the reasons that agents are failing at a higher rate, frankly, it is because they're following false prophets. It is because they're not being discerning who they're listening to. It is because there's this proliferation of people that are calling themselves real estate coaches and trainers out there that have never done one of those things, let alone all 4 of those things, and the shiny objects. And so if you're not being really particular who you're listening to and using what Brandon and I, he's from Michigan, we're from Ohio, what you call common sense. Right. If you're not using common sense who you're going to listen to, you're probably just going to be a real estate roadkill. Does that make sense?
100%. Well said. Thank you for that. And I think I'll go down this path, and maybe it's a dangerous one. I don't know. But I think one of the biggest challenges, I want your opinion on this, Tim, is those 4 things I wrote down. Those are phenomenal. That's a great framework to follow to say, am I going to believe in the message that is being disseminated or not? And it makes it very clear. I think the challenge is if you go down those 4 things and you look at the voice that most agents hear from first is their broker. And so that, in my experience, most brokers don't fit this bill. Most broker, right? So most broker managers that are bringing these people into the industry don't fit the bill. Yep. But they're the ones they're taking advice from before they even know to hire a coach, before they even get introduced to somebody like you. Right. So I think that, and I've talked about this in other podcasts before, what do we do about that in the industry so that the voices that they hear early on, they're not being influenced by somebody who hasn't sold 100 homes in a year before? Because in my experience, and I own a company too, most broker owners, have not succeeded in the selling of real estate in any high success. What are your thoughts on that?
100% agree. Obviously, so 74% of all agents have been in the business, and brokers, right? Licensees, let's say, have only been in the business for 15 years or less. So they have only sold in this ridiculous,
crazy seller's market.
Well, yeah. Crazy seller's market, but it's also been essentially a low interest rate, quantitative easing sort of fake market. The FOMO, what people are now realizing is that the FOMO that was created by the sustained artificial low interest rates, because the government was keeping interest rates down, has bred a generation of agents, more than a generation, let's call it generation 10 years. It's bred a generation of agents that have never had to sell in a market other than where you could essentially lean into FOMO, fear of missing out. So sellers FOMO, I'll sell, I'll keep my house for a couple of years. I'll hit the, I'll win the real estate lottery. I'll move up to the next one. Buyers, oh my gosh, if I don't buy something, I'm going to lose out. Those types of things. Now, when that FOMO doesn't exist, so many agents have no clue how to actually, get a seller to list correctly, motivate a buyer so that buyers don't feel skills. That's where we're entering. We're leaving a market that was about, really who knows you, frankly, and we're entering a market into that's going to be mostly what do you know? Like, what is your actual skill set? So yes, you're correct. There's a whole generation of agents and brokers and team leaders, most of them out there that you trip across, have never sold real estate in anything other than this sort of, artificially induced seller's market. And there it is. That's it. So they've not had to have the skill. They don't know how to do price reductions. They don't know how to do all the things that are necessary to market like this. Even knowing the skills. Okay, here's the script. Here's what I'm going to say. The psychology that's involved, not just to manage yourself, but to manage the seller's expectations, the psychology of knowing how to, deal with a seller if you have 10 sellers, 20 sellers, right? And how to manage all of their, their fears, all that. That's where the skill comes in. And when you can do that at a high level and you know what to say and how to say it, you're operating on a level of conscious competence where you don't even have to think before you talk, because whatever comes out of your mouth is spot on. When you operate at that level selling real estate, and I hope all of you get to the point where you can experience that because it's incredible. Then you've arrived truly. Then you control what goes in your head. You can control what comes out of your mouth. And then when the seller's sitting across from you, you might not have 100,000 people that follow you on Instagram or TikTok videos and all those types of things. But the seller wants to list with you because they can see you have the skill set.
Yeah, 100% agree. And, when the agent, we talked about, hey, what is the filter framework that someone can go through to decide, okay, am I going to invest in this person or not? Time, energy, effort, financially, all of those things. Is there additional things that you think agents should consider before they say, I'm going to go work at this company, work for this brokerage, join this team? Is there additional things to the 4 things that you have already mentioned?
Well, I mean, so my mind is going to trying to figure out what you're asking. If you're
asking, my question is this. My question is, so you're spot on, right? There's all these voices coming from everywhere, right? Most of which actually aren't broker owners. Most are like, fake influencers, people that can just turn the camera on and they can just, scream. What I'm talking about, okay, Bob, who's sitting there wanting to get into real estate, wants to join this industry. You gave a nice framework on, hey, here's how you filter information. What about when it comes to which brokerage should I join? Are there things that I need to consider before I say, yeah, I'm going to go invest my career with this leadership team or with this or with that? Because we just did a podcast, I don't know, a week ago talking about this topic. I'm curious, are there things that you would coach an agent to or someone getting into the business to say, listen, these are the things you need to consider before you make a massive decision to join Billy Bob's Real Estate, EXP, RE/MAX, KW. These are the things you need to really consider.
So I'm going to expand on that with your permission. So your environment. So there's only 3 things you can really control. You can argue 4, but you can control your environment, you can control your weight, you can control your finances, right?
Beautiful. Yes.
So your environment is everything. And your environment's not just
Say that again so nobody misses it.
You can control 3 things, and that's about it. You can control your weight, you can control your finances, and you can control your environment. So weight and finances speak for themselves, but environment is obtuse. So let's drill down on what that means. Your environment is your physical environment where you are, but your environment's also who you expose yourself to virtually and in real life. Your environment's your real estate office. Your environment's, what you listen to, what you watch. That's your environment. And one of the things that, just to meander it slightly, but one of the best things that everyone can do for themselves is take a mental emotional cleanse and completely go media free. I can't even remember how long ago Julie and I did that. We don't watch the news at all. Nothing at all. We are completely media free. And that helps so much because again, you have to control your environment. You might think you have the best mindset ever and you can be, watching all these news channels. And you don't think it's going to have a negative effect on you. Of course, it's going to have a negative effect on you. So number one thing is if you're choosing a real estate brokerage, you got to choose somebody who's not operating out of fear. If you go to if you choose an office where everyone's basically, digging their foxholes ready for the alien invasion, because of the recession or whatever the hell it is, there's going to be, look, a recession will come or will it go? It doesn't matter. No. Interest rates will go up. They'll go down? Doesn't matter. No. Will all these other, things we're supposed to worry about. So if you're in an environment, and again, if you're on Facebook groups, if you find yourself, suckered into watching certain things, consuming certain things, being around certain people that make you feel fear, that's the thing. That's how you can monitor whether or not you're in the right environment. How do you feel? Like listeners, how do you feel when you listen to Brandon? How do you feel when you're listening to this, watching this? How do you feel? How do you feel right now? And probably the way you feel is similar to the way I feel, which is you feel sanguine, you feel happy, you feel calm, you feel in control. Now, if all of a sudden you flip off and now you're watching some other video and the person's telling you about how the sky is falling, you're no longer in control of your thoughts. You're no longer controlling your environment. So the best way to be effective, I found, is to stop thinking about so many things and basically focus on fewer things. Have like this, really at the end of the day, like Brandon, you and I are going to be sitting on the beach a year from now. I'm going to get your butt down to Puerto Rico. It's going to happen.
Okay? I love it.
And I'm going to ask you, what are the top 3 to 5 things? And we're going to do this in January of next year. So what are the top 3 to 5 things that you accomplished in the last 12 months that you're most proud of? Like, what are the things that you are absolutely thrilled that you accomplished there? You hit it out of the park. Like you got in really great shape. Maybe you saved $1 million. Maybe you bought a Ferrari. Maybe you sold a Ferrari. Maybe it doesn't matter what. You donated money. It doesn't matter what. You just decide. What are the things? But they have to be quantifiable. They have to be real. Oh, I got better control of my schedule. Now, how about this? You took 20 listings. You sold 30 houses. You saved $100,000. You paid off $100,000 in debt. What are the specific things? And choose 3 to 5, and that's it. And focus on those things. And anything else that tries to distract you from any of those things, you got to be very wary. You got to control your environment. So if you find yourself in an environment, and Julie and I are associated with EXP, we have been for 4 years. And one of the reasons that we chose, and I won't make this do an EXP pitch because I know that triggers you. I'm joking.
Hey, that's right. We can keep it real on this show. It's all good.
All right. Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons. I'll tell you the number one reason we chose it, because I didn't want to be associated with any one brokerage, because I was worried about, Julie and I have a coaching and training organization. We have the number one listened to daily podcast for real estate agents in the United States, blah, 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 a lot of stuff. And I was worried that if we didn't stay broker agnostic, it would hurt our main business, and the exact opposite happened. So when I look at, for example, I'll never forget it, because it was like, Julie and I were driving back from an EXP event in San Antonio, Texas. This is when we lived in Austin. Now we live in Dorado, Puerto Rico. And we were driving up on the toll road. The speed limit's 85. You'd love it, Brandon. And so Julie is asking me, and I was still kind of dug in. I was, I don't think so, blah, blah, blah. And really what was holding me back was my ego, because I was worried it'd adversely affect our main business, like I just expressed to all you.
Sure.
And then Julie asked me like 2 questions. I'll never forget them, because it was very clarifying, because it made me feel like a hypocrite. She goes, what is our mission in our real estate business? What are, our coaching business? What are we really, and we're trying to help agents create freedom, financial freedom primarily. We're trying to help agents improve their lives through, building successful real estate businesses. That's really what drives us. That's our mission. Helping agents feel free, helping agents get to the point where they don't have to live under the trials and tribulations, there's ups and downs and cash flow, the whole rest of it. And then she said, well, how is EXP not in alignment with that particular goal? So in other words, she was saying, if that truly is what you think and you feel, and that's the driving mission that we have in our coaching business, and that EXP is going to help us, or is going to help us deliver that to agents, and EXP is going to help agents accomplish that, even on a higher level, frankly, than they can with our coaching, because it's the next thing, right?
Yep.
That was the connection for me. Because what I realized is that we can get them to be productive. Well, I'll give you an example. So I was on the phone the other day, 2 weeks ago, with an agent in Iowa, and he was with Century 21. And this is
There's real estate in Iowa?
I'm from Ohio and you're from Michigan, brother. We should not be making fun of Iowa,
True.
right?
Fair
Okay.
enough.
Okay, we're all the same.
You're right.
So we get I'm going through the numbers with this guy, and this guy paid last year Will paid his broker. He had a team of like 15 agents, right? So all in, he'll pay his broker with the team. Oh, it was like $430,000, right? And he'd been producing at that level, like 270 units a year. He'd been producing at that level for like, I think, almost 5 years. So we were talking about millions of dollars he's paid to his broker. So I did the math for him at EXP. His group of 15 agents, with all the ways that it works at EXP, I believe the total amount he'll pay EXP, if his volume is the same, was $43,000. So had he been with EXP over the last 5 years and just invested the amount of money that he paid to Century 21 in like the index funds, and Vanguard index funds, the amount of money he would have made would have been millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. So we can coach them, we can train them, but we weren't getting them to be financially responsible. We weren't making it. So there was a missing, we feel like we'd prepare them, and then we kind of push them out in the wild after they've, got their skills on, and then they'd fall into some trap that would, it would move them further away from their true goal, which was to be free. Because really, that's what everyone's goal is. I mean, why did you get into real estate originally?
Yeah, 100%. We're totally in alignment there, and I'll pull back the curtain a little bit on that last point, just so I don't forget this. When I have thought about aligning with one of these virtual brokerages, whether that be EXP or Real or whatever, what you just said is the part that I resonate with a lot because of what we said 10 minutes ago, which is this. Let me remind this for the audience. When you and I pour into a real estate agent and we coach them to a level of production where they're really, really exceeding their expectations, they're really serving their family at a high level, and then we put them back into the wild that when you said that is putting them back in the hands of a broker who has never sold real estate, who has never succeeded. And so the benefit you get at EXP that I resonate with is like they're still in Tim's hands. They're in partnership with you and Julie, so you're not putting them back into maybe the wrong person's hands, which I could see makes a lot of sense.
So again, I was the most skeptical. I was the most skeptical person to ever talk to. They solicited us for 6 years prior to us actually aligning. And I was incredibly skeptical for all the reasons and a whole bunch of other reasons. Mostly it was out of ignorance and ego. That's really the bottom line. Like I didn't fully understand how much of an improvement to agents' lives EXP was going to offer. And I really didn't even after we aligned. And this was 4 years ago this month, actually. So 4 years ago this month when we aligned, it was 6 months, maybe June of that 2019 before I really had my mind wrapped around. And I'll tell you what it was. It's because I started seeing agents that we'd coached for a long period of time who were accumulating stock, some of them had revenue share. They were starting to make money different ways. And I thought, damn, now I get it. And also I came across this video of Glenn Sanford being interviewed, and he was a successful real estate agent. He ran teams and with KW and was and then 2007 hit and, sucked the wind out of his sails like it did a lot of other people. And that's when he realized that basically I need to create a brokerage that's truly agent centric, not just what brokers say.
Right.
And so it creates multiple streams of income from just what you're already doing. So you go to EXP, chances are you're going to pay a hell of a lot less in commission split because it's only a $16,000 cap. And if you have a team of up to 10 people, it's an $8,000 cap, and it's a $4,000 cap. But for top producers, the Icon program, they effectively get their cap back in the form of EXPI stock. So you will, if you're an agent who's in production at a decent level, you're not going to really effectively pay EXP anything. And when I put all these thoughts together, especially for our coaching clients initially, my mind was blown because it's like, holy crap, because now I can teach them to be successful selling real estate, and they're going to be making, I remember Colette McDonald showed me her EXP stock awards from having capped for 3 years in a row. And it was a significant amount of money that she got for free, So so basically to Icon, you hit, you cap, that's $16,000. Then after that, you have to sell an additional, you basically have to have a total GCI of 500 grand, including what you paid into cap, or sell an additional 25 units. So someone who's selling lesser expensive homes or someone selling more expensive homes, they can accomplish it. Well, she'd done that a number of years in a row, and a lot of other people in our group have as well. And then when they share with me what an impact that's made on their lives, having that financial security for the first time, it is emotional.
For sure.
I mean, honestly, I want to change the topics because I'll get emotional just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But then revenue share. I had people that we've coached that got sick, that had just all kinds of life happens, right? And the revenue share it sustained them. They were able to basically pay all their bills and they didn't have financial destitute. And I mean, all that together is just incredible. And the rap that EXP gets is just a recruiting company. It's such bullshit.
Yeah.
Of the 86. Well, there's, I know, I told you, I warned you, don't get me on my soapbox. I'm very enthusiastic about it, honestly.
I know you are. It's you're impacting people's lives. I'll never take that away from you. I'll never, try to shut that conversation down. I know how passionate you are. I know the impact you're making. People I coach are in your world. You know what I mean? So I get it. I know the impact that you make. And so, no, I'll never take that away from you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's the greatest. It's the seventh wonder of the world, but it's only available to you if you have a real estate license. That's
crazy.
And there's all these replica companies, fakey-do companies coming out, but none of them have the same feature. When you have nearly 100,000 agents, you're going to be able to do things. And Glenn built this thing with no debt, but you're going to be able to do things that other companies aren't going to do. Healthcare, and I mean, I could tell you stories about EXP's healthcare that how many agents have healthcare?
Right.
Like none.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how many agents have fallen into bankruptcy from health problems or the kids having health problems? How many agents have fallen in? How many agents do you know that successfully retire?
Yeah. No, none. Zero.
I know agents that are retiring in EXP now in their 40s.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Cool. Yeah. And the thing that you said, a couple times on this podcast is the word focus. And because if I were to boil it down, I think I would say the same thing you did. Like the opposite of distraction is focus. And that's the hardest part for people getting in this industry with all the voices coming at them. No bullshit. I was having a conversation with an agent I was coaching yesterday. And the advice he got from his broker was absolutely do not prospect. You need that's what he said. That was the advice he said to him. I'm like, you're kidding. He's like, no. Don't prospect. Only serve the people that you know. That's it.
Well, that's that broker's whole life experience. He came across a referral only type deal.
3 houses a year. I know. I get it. And so on the path of focus, is there some fundamentals, Tim, that you and Julie have found through coaching so many agents that you think is a good path that if they follow it, they can succeed? In other words, all the voices things, right? So they're just saying, make, half naked TikTok dance videos and you'll get leads that way. Some people are saying, do this and you'll get leads. Do that, do this. When it comes to the basic fundamentals that an agent should focus on, that you and Julie find successful every time somebody does it, what would be some of those things that you would want to share? First
of all, remove from your mind that leads are hard to get because they're everywhere.
That's
right. Leads are fungible. Leads and people buying buyer leads. Honestly, I have no flipping clue why anyone would buy a buyer lead.
You and I are on the same page.
It's so insane.
Yeah, I know.
But look how much money freaking Zillow and Realtor.com.
Unbelievable.
Dude, why don't we do that?
Yeah, exactly. We should start that right after this podcast.
Forget it. Podcast over.
Yeah, we got to go.
Yeah. We got to go. But seriously, because buyer leads, something our first broker told us, Rory Averill, he goes, we were trying to figure it all out. This is our first year. He goes, Tim, he talks really fast. I think I talk fast. This guy talked fast. He goes, Tim, take a listing and you'll have to beat the buyers off the stick.
Exactly.
And he's so right. And like, oh, I don't have a listing. How am I going to get buyer leads? Hold somebody's house open. Okay,
exactly.
Free. Yeah.
I don't know why this is so hard for people to understand.
Because they're following false prophets. They're following prophets that are after their own personal profits. So,
Great
profit
point.
to profit.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it is. It's people basically trying to sell agents crap. And I'll circle back to your question. when Julie and I, because you're right, to something you said a second ago, it would be very hard to discern the good, the bad from the ugly when it came to who to listen to. And so, because there's so many people that come and go, the seller's market that we're leaving has created trillions of dollars, I'm sure, maybe not trillions, probably not trillions, but billions of dollars in these businesses that are essentially effectively trying to sell really mostly the same buyer leads to agents. It's extraordinary. Now, and all of them were, essentially got started on using venture money. Those companies are all going to go out of business. You mentioned TikTok, for example. Do you think TikTok's going to be legal in the United States in 12 months? I don't.
Absolutely not.
I don't. Nor should it.
Frankly. It's on its way out right now.
Well, not as a fad, but as basically
legally
a psyops experiment. Yeah,
100%. You and I are on the same page.
Right. So,
and let me make one thing clear, Tim. Hold on, before you unpack this. I was just thinking about this. Not all brokers are bad. That's not what I'm saying. Just to be clear for the audience, there are some phenomenal leaders. I'm just saying it's the 80-20 principle. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead. Keep rocking.
Well, there's something, Julie and I didn't think of this, but I love it. Don't build your mansion on land you don't own. And if you're building your real estate business or deciding how to build your real estate business, if it's based on bought buyer leads, you don't own the land. So you might build a big buyer agent based business. Maybe you're going to, I see this happening all the time. Agents get into the business and I'm going to build a team. I'm going to add a whole bunch of buyer agents. I'm going to become whatever with whatever company and start getting all these buyer leads. And I'm going to make a margin on them. And that's my business model. Until the source of your buyer leads decides to raise the price, decides to, stop selling the leads to you. So you built your mansion on land you didn't own. And that's what most agents are doing without knowing it. So to answer your question, you have to, so there's passive lead generation and there's proactive lead generation. And Julie and I, the spokes on the wheel analogy is something we came up with a long time ago. And the essence of it is it's a bicycle wheel. I think you use something similar with pillars.
Yep.
Yeah. So the essence of it is it's an old fashioned bicycle wheel. And there's, imagine a circle and there's a little hub.
I'm drawing it right now.
Right. There you go. That's what I have people do. Yeah. Okay. And then each spoke represents a source of business. So if you, like you mentioned a second ago, very good. You mentioned a second ago, the Center of Influence and Past Client lead generation
database.
Model. Right. The reason most agents are attracted to that is because it requires the least amount of skill and there's the least amount of rejection, which is similar to the least amount of skill. That, by the way, is the first spoke that you should build on your wheel, but it's not the only spoke. 100%. Why Centers of Influence and Past Clients? Because most agents will be able to pick up a handful of deals every year from that easily by accident. So the premise of the wheel is that you want to have at least 5 to 7 really strong spokes. Because if you have one spoke and your wheel it's on the front of your bike and you're rolling down the road and your wheel hits a little pebble in the road, that wheel has no integrity, no structural integrity. That wheel is going to collapse on itself and you're going to obviously hurt yourself. We don't want you to hurt yourself. So what you want to do is you want to, but the first spokes you put on your wheel have to be the strongest spokes. And after that, you can put on weaker spokes. So the first spokes on your wheel have to be, if you're serious about real estate, if you're serious about being in this business, if you're serious about making a profit in this business, the first spokes have to be proactive lead generation spokes. Then after that, you can start adding the passive lead generation spokes, which are frankly the things that everyone does it backwards.
Right.
And they're doing the passive, the social media, the marketing, the branding, and all that stuff. All that stuff has a place in your business. Frankly, all that stuff is a hell of a lot more fun than the proactive lead generation for sure. But you've got to do it after you've done the proactive. And I'll give you an example. Chuck Williamson in Wilson, North Carolina. You've never heard of him before. Chuck he's in our EXP group. He's somebody I coached. So he sells enough homes that in this little town, he makes well into the 7 figures every year. He does 99% of it off of proactive lead generation. He might do some now. I really don't know. I haven't talked to him probably 6 months, but he does no social media. I had to show him how to log into Facebook, right? And he's not old. He's younger than me.
Right.
Yeah. So the point is once you get really good at the proactive lead generation, you will never have to buy leads. And when someone comes up and tells you, you have to do a half naked TikTok, you're going to say, are you kidding me? That's insane. because you know every single day you can wake up and you can proactively lead generate. If you are building your business with weak spokes, you're always going to be looking for the next shiny object because you know damn well your wheel has no integrity because it's already wobbly. So
you and I are so completely aligned. Like I had to hold my smiles back because you and I are so philosophically aligned with everything you just said. That will be its own probably Instagram reel. That'll be its own TikTok video. What you just said. Because here's the thing. I mean, isn't that funny?
Can I take my shirt off? You want me to take my shirt off?
No, you could be fully clothed, actually. So the thing is, you nailed it, right? I mean, there's story after story after story. I mean, I coached a brand new agent in Georgia, in Atlanta, and we had her get to 56 transactions in her first year, no website, no social media, no nothing. And then we let that business that has 90% margins fund what I call the inbound business. You call it the proactive passive income. And we have her building content to generate leads, not paid traffic, free traffic through content, but we fund that through our direct outbound. And so we see it the exact same way. And it's like everyone's doing it backwards. Everyone's building the brand and trying to get the inbound to work when they have no money coming in and they end up getting out of the business.
So if you think about it, it's a Charlie Munger quote. Don't try to be famous. Try to make the work that you do famous, or make the results you're getting for other people famous. And there's a lot of this influencer marketing that is probably a macro trend that's kind of waning, truthfully.
Right.
It started with Gary Vaynerchuk, and there's some other people in our space really tried to. I mean, I got an email from the other day. Someone said, "Do you want to be a YouTube star?" This was a real estate trainer.
Sure.
Trying to, yeah. But to answer our question that you and I have been bouncing around, why is the failure rate increasing? It's what you just said. That's why. Because agents are getting in and they're not being told to do the hard stuff first. There's a saying that Julie and I came up with a long time ago. If you want ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. That's really the bottom line. So if you find yourself being like, okay, Brandon and I are going to give you 5 ways to lead generate. Okay, I'll tell you something funny. So we're in front of a group, in Iowa, by the way. And it was, I don't know, 75 people. And I said, okay, I'm going to run a contest. And the contest is if you take 5 listings in the next 30 days, I'll write you a check for $1 million, taxes paid. Here's $1 million. And I said, so that's what you have to do. 5 listings in 30 days, which you could do with any proactive lead generator could do in a week. I mean, let's be honest. And this is in Iowa, right? So, okay. And I said, this is the question. I said, what will you stop doing? Not what will you do? What will you stop doing? And they all started to laugh because they all knew the flippant answer. And I had to talk. And they all start, I say, so what would you stop doing? And they'll say, well, I probably wouldn't be doing this social media thing or that social media. Well, why? Well, it's because I know those things don't create business for me right away. And I know if I wanted to take 5 listings and win the contest, I would need to do these things. So what are the things that you'd want to do? Then the second question, right? And then they all kind of looked at each other because they didn't want to admit it. And I said, well, on the way to drive here, and this actually was the last time we were there, we drove past a for sale by owner. I said, I saw it. Did all of you who had to have driven by that stuff? How many of you have called it so far? So there's a seller with a name, with their phone number.
I want to sell. I want to sell. I want to sell.
And I'm like, no, I don't see it. I have to make a TikTok.
I know.
Forget it. I got my blinders on. And it's like, there's a seller who's telling you. Now, I'll tell you the greatest opportunity in real estate right now, and I know you'll agree with this, is expired listings.
Oh,
no
absolutely. Hands down.
Yeah. And here's what they say. You're hearing this too. Oh, everyone's calling them. Bullshit.
Yeah.
They're not, because they don't know how to. You're competing against a generation of agents who've been in this industry during a time where you were told to build your business through branding, marketing, and passive lead generation.
That's right.
And if you think that you're competing with a bunch of agents to go after those expireds, your competitors are mailing them things at best. They're sure as heck not actually having meaningful conversations that are going to result in them taking that listing. That's the biggest opportunity right now.
Yep. Well said. I mean, that you just nailed it. And so it's just amazing that, these agents just struggle with it so bad. It's just the path of least resistance. That's what it comes down to. It's just the path of least resistance. And you nailed it. I've gone as far as, I love your frame when you were on stage in Iowa. What would you stop doing if you had to get the listing? I have challenged, and I will put this challenge out here. This will be a great place to end. I will put this challenge out to any marketer that is listening or watching to this on YouTube, and I'll put up an agent that tries your little gimmick, and I'll put another agent that uses proactive lead generation. And in 30 days, we'll see how many listings that person gets. And I've yet to have a marketer take me up on that, because I love the way you do it. What would you, if you had to get a listing and your family needed to pay their bills, what would you do? And they always say the proactive lead gen stuff.
They know the truth.
They know the truth. It's just, it's hard. I didn't ask you to like it. I didn't ask you that.
So you and I are, I don't know what our industry is, but let's just call it the real estate agent coaching and training space, right?
Sure.
So why is it that so many people that are in the same space as us, you know, influencers, whatever word you want to use, why is it that they're so, why is it that they're selling the passive stuff?
I'll tell you, because there's no better marketing message than easy. That's why.
Correct.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
So you got Tim and Brandon on the mountaintop saying this is what gets results. Is it easy? No. Is it hard? Yes. And then you got Bob, Sue, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry over here saying, don't listen to Tim and Julie. Guys, that's old school. Come over here and do, put the bikini on, just shake your rear end and you'll start getting leads. And it's like, wow, that's a lot more enjoyable. Let me go over there. That's why.
I agree. And agents are, it's because agents do not want to do what they don't want to do when they
Absolutely
don't want to do it at the highest level. But nobody really does. I don't. I have to force myself every day to work out.
Same.
Every day. Never one day in my life have I wanted to work out. Never one day.
Well, and here's the other truth. It doesn't really matter what it is. Everything is hard. Shooting content. People see us doing content. It's like, well, you think I want to shoot this as much content as I do every single day? I don't want to do that. I'd rather be doing something else. But I do it every single day. And everyone's like, I want to grow a YouTube channel. No, you don't. Because the second that camera goes on, you're like, oh, dude, that's too uncomfortable. As soon as I ask you to call it for sale by owner, it's like, oh, no, you don't. That's too uncomfortable. Anything that's going to work is going to cause you to have some pain. And my thing is, the thing that causes the pain is probably the right path. The thing that is easy is probably the wrong path. That's my framework for making decisions. So anyways, you and I could probably go for a couple days on this stuff. If people want to learn more about what you and Julie are doing, where can they go? Where's the best spot for them to learn about, partnering with you guys or learning from you guys? Where should they go?
Really, the best place to get to know us is going to be on our podcast. And it's number one. It's
a great podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've had over 20 million downloads. We've had, thousands of shows. It's incredible. Yeah. But yeah, so you can just Google Tim and Julie Harris podcast, or just go to iTunes and just look up Tim and Julie Harris. It's called Real Estate Coaching and Training Radio. But I mean, you can find it everywhere. That's the best place.
I'll link to it, Tim. Okay. I'll put a link to your guys' podcast in the show notes beneath this, everyone. You guys can just go check it out. It's a great podcast. I've been listening to it my whole career, 16 years, so yeah, keep going.
We do need to say this, though. Otherwise, someone's going to basically flame you in comments, okay? So I know you believe that social media has a place. Of course it
Absolutely.
does. But so we need to make this clear. We're not saying it doesn't. It does. But it has to come after you've learned how to do the proactive lead generation. Can you be successful doing the passive lead generation? Yes, but your profit margins will be terrible. Right. And furthermore, you will always be spending more money to try to maintain status quo. Is there a place? He gave a great example. Is there a place for passive lead generation, social media? Yes. Should you have profiles and all the social stuff? Yes. And we could talk about AI, and we could talk about a lot of other things that are going to be creating a lot of social media content. But really, if you want to be successful long-term in real estate, not just successful because you look successful truly because you've helped thousands of people, made millions of dollars. You've actually had enough profit that you've built, a fortune, for essentially enough passive income for yourself that you're rich. And rich is where your money works for you and you no longer have to work for your money. Do it in the right order. And if it feels hard, if your initial impression to us asking you to go talk to that for sale by owner is hell no, that's, to his point, exactly what you should be doing. And you know it.
That's right.
Stop resisting. Yeah.
So yeah, I posted this on Twitter yesterday, literally to your point, and I want to make this super clear for the audience because Tim, that's a really good. I'm glad you did that. I took the 6 ways to generate business and I posted this on Twitter and I ranked them. I said number 1 is your top 100, your SOI past client database. Number 2, unpaid direct outbound. This is proactive lead generation. Number 3, referral partners, divorce attorneys, CPAs, insurance agents. Number 4 on the list, okay, so middle of the road, was unpaid direct inbound. So this is content. This is not even buying leads. This is going out there and creating valuable content to have your ideal client find you. And 5 and 6 were paid. And so it's like, I make the argument, my whole point, Tim, is before you even get into paid traffic, you can do 1 through 4, which is all free, and generate a 7-figure real estate sales business and never have to pay for anything. And, oh, by the way, do I believe in content marketing? 1,000%. It just has to be funded through direct outbound or you'll starve. I've been posting videos on YouTube for a long time. It wasn't until 2 years ago that I've gotten any traction. And so all we're saying is as you're doing these other channels, that you have a direct outbound approach that's generating cash flow right now, this week, this month, as you build the long-term stuff out. That's it.
100%. I agree. Yeah, that's great. I love it.
Appreciate you, brother.
Of course. You too.